Hi guys, so I'd just like to talk about homelessness. That's supposed to be somebody lying down, by the way. Right. Hi guys, so I'd just like to talk about homelessness. Living in Manchester like I do, there's quite a lot of homeless people around, sleeping on the streets, sitting outside shops and sleeping in doorways at night. Sometimes on a Saturday morning I'll be walking through Manchester to get the train, because I get the train to go and visit my son, and I'll be walking up to the train station and I'll see people asleep on cardboard boxes. So they'll get a cardboard box and they'll flatten it, sleep on top in a sleeping bag, wearing their clothes. And this is in winter sometimes, so it'll be January or in February when it's absolutely freezing outside and people will be asleep, like I say, on cardboard boxes, or literally just lying in a doorway. And I wonder if it's the same in other countries. I wonder if other countries have this problem with homelessness. For some reason I can't imagine Japan having a problem with homelessness. Japan, I don't know why, I just can't imagine that they have this thing in Japan, but I'm sure they do. I suppose it's very easy to be critical of people on the streets, to criticise them, or get a job, or you're lazy, lazy person. But I think a lot of it is to do with mental health issues that people have. Obviously drug and alcohol problems, but which came first, the drug and alcohol problems, or do some people turn to alcohol and drugs when they are homeless in order to survive being on the streets? There's different reasons why people end up on the streets or end up homeless. Sleeping in a back alleyway, or sleeping in a park or something like that on a park bench. There's different reasons. I mean, some people it will be short term, like they may have been quite successful people, they may have been married, but they've lost their business, they've lost their job, they've lost their marriage, and they're too proud to claim government benefits. So there'll be a minority of people who are like that, and they can be very intelligent, but they find themselves sleeping rough, sleeping on the streets, and it might be a short-term thing for, say, 6 months until they get back on their feet again. And then there are the long-term homeless people who have been on the streets for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. They're almost institutionalised. So even if they got offered their own apartment or their own flat, they couldn't function, they couldn't do the things you have to do, which you pay the bills and manage your money, buy food with your money, and they couldn't cope. They couldn't cope having an everyday sort of routine, really. So if they were to go back to, or if they were to try living in an apartment, they probably couldn't function with all that's involved. So it's in a sense, it's probably easier for them to just be on the streets. But I've always said to myself, it's got to be a lot easier to be homeless in a warm country with a warm climate. So if you're homeless in California or Florida or Jamaica or a warm country, it's got to be slightly easier than being homeless in Russia or Poland or Northern Europe somewhere like Finland, where it's very, very cold. I mean, can you imagine sleeping outside in winter? Can you imagine it? Can you imagine actually sleeping on the streets? I mean, God, sometimes in this house in winter, if I don't have the heating on, I get cold, and that's inside, and that's me wearing a jumper. So I just cannot imagine even one night trying to sleep on the streets in winter. In fact, even in summertime, let's face it, sleeping on the streets. So it's very easy to criticise people who are homeless. But I've noticed in Manchester there's a problem. It does seem to be worse now than it was 15, 20 years ago. And people are taking this drug called spice.
It's called Spice. I think it's still legal, but it's horrendous. They take it and they're like zombies. I've seen them and they're not drunk, but they're just almost frozen. It freezes them up, so they take it and they're just like, like that. But yeah, it's not great, is it? It's not great. I'd like to know your thoughts if you're watching this on homelessness. Do you think people can be helped, or what are your thoughts? And thanks for watching. Oh yeah, this. All right.
No, not the gaga. Not the gaga. And here we have Paul McCartney when he was younger. Paul McCartney.